Hi, in this video we're going to be talking about the LinuxFX operating system. So if you're a Windows user and you're thinking of getting away from Windows and not a fan of Windows 11, you could try out this version of Linux to get the Windows 11 experience without running Windows. So this desktop you're looking at right now is actually a Linux computer and not running Windows, even though it looks just like Windows. Even has Copilot and everything with the start menu and all that other good stuff. So what we're going to do in this video is show you how to install this, and then we'll go through some of the features, and then you could decide if you want to try it out for yourself. Alright, so I'm going to leave this one alone, so we're going to go over to a different computer and start a new installation. So obviously you're going to need to go to their website, download the ISO file, and use your favorite media creation tool to burn it to a flash drive or a DVD if you still have one of those, and then you'll have to boot your computer with it to start the installation. So the method for this will vary depending on what tool you're using. So I'll put a link in the description for a bunch of possible tools that you could check out and use to create your flash drive. All right, so let's start the installation. All right, you can see we have a Windows logo there, and it said press F2 to select language if you need to change it. All right, and then it also looks like the Windows startup logo there as well. And you can see there in the bottom right, it even has a Copilot logo, and it comes with Copilot itself. Right, you'll see this PowerTools thing that just popped up there. So that is a tool that you could use with this version of Linux, but the downside is it's not free. It's supposed to come with a 30-day trial, and I think it's like $35 after that. But for some reason, the last time I installed this, the PowerTools thing didn't work at all. It wanted me to add a license key. So we'll see if that happens with this installation. All right, so as you can see, it loaded up pretty quickly. So this is actually running it in memory. So if you want to play around with it without installing, you could do so. And then anything you do here, like installing new apps or adding files, that'll all be lost once you turn it off because it's only running in your memory instead of being installed on the hard drive. So that's one option. So if you want to install it, it has this icon here to install Winux 11. So we'll just double click this to start the installation process. You can pick your language here, change your time zone if needed, keyboard layout. It should pick the right settings by default, but you could change it if you need to. All right, so now here is where you will need to decide what you're doing with your hard drive. So if you have a dedicated hard drive for this, then you could probably use this one here. Or if you want to actually create your own partitions and change their sizes, you could do this as well. So when doing this, like I said, probably better to do it on a separate hard drive, or you could go into disk management in Windows and shrink your C drive if you have room to install Linux on. So we have a video on that as well, which I'll put in the description. So if you want to do some kind of dual boot thing, you could do that. All right, so we're going to just do the erase the whole disk since we have a dedicated disk. We're not going to do any encryption, but of course that's up to you. They have like a BitLocker type feature in this as well if you want to encrypt your drive. All right, click on next. All right, give the username here. We'll just say this guy is Bob. And we're going to use Bob for the login name. You could change that if you want to. I believe it has to be lowercase. And then we'll change the computer name here to X. You can name it whatever you like. Put in a password for Bob. Confirm it. And then you could have it log in automatically if you don't want to put in the password. Of course, that's a security risk, but it's up to you. So this is just a test computer, so I'm not going to worry about it. And apparently my passwords don't match. Okay, try it again. All right, so here is our summary screen with our time zone, keyboard layout, the partitions, what it's going to do here. So we'll click on install. So it says it's going to make changes to the disk. We'll not be able to undo these changes. So of course anything on this drive is going to be wiped, so keep that in mind. So click on install now. All right, so now it's going to go through this process here of downloading and installing and updating and all that other good stuff. So I will pause the video and be back when this is done, because this will take a little bit of time. All right, so the installation is complete. So we have the box here to reboot. So we'll go ahead and restart the computer. All right, so it says to remove the installation medium and press enter, most likely so you don't accidentally boot from your flash drive again and start the installation over. So we'll do that and press enter. All right, so we're booted into our Linux desktop here, even though it looks just like Windows 11, like you saw before, even with the background here. So not sure if this is a licensing problem or not to use this picture, but they're using it anyways. Even has the similar looking taskbar, start menu, system tray, even Copilot, like I mentioned before too. Looks just like the real deal there. Even shows that we have some updates. All right, so now let's go over some of the features here. All right, so if we click on the Start menu here, you can see we have our user account. And that'll open up the system settings here if you want to make a new user. So while we're here, let's just go over some of these other settings real quick. You can change your password, regional settings, accessibility options, application options for file associations, file locations, default apps, some diagnostics. You even have a backup tool, KDE Wallet if you want to keep that kind of information here. Online accounts, so if we click on Add New Account, we can do Microsoft account, Google account, feedback options here, network connections. So we're on a wired connection here, general information, security information, IP4 information, so we're on automatic, so DHCP. This full screen here. Then you can make this manual if you want to add your own IP address. Then we have some settings here. Let's discard this. All right, proxy settings, firewall information. Let's put in the password. So the firewall is disabled by default. Not sure why that is, but if you want to use the firewall, you could enable it and then see if you run into any problems and add rules to let traffic through if need be, or just simply disable it again. Then we have our input devices for keyboard and mouse, that type of thing. Display information. So if you want to change your orientation, scale, color settings, night color settings, audio settings, multimedia, power management. So it turns off the screen after 10 minutes by default, which I don't like to use in this situation, so I'm going to turn that off. Apply it. Other power settings, advanced power settings, Bluetooth settings, got a driver manager. So software repositories and sources and that type of thing. We have our KDE Connect if you want to connect your phone, kind of like the Windows Phone link. And you could install printers, check out any removable storage, what you want to do here for actions, cameras, removable devices, Thunderbolt. Not sure why this says not available, might have to be added. And then we have the software update section, how often you want it to check for updates. All right, so then if we go here, we could open our file manager. Same thing is down here. And you could do things like make a new tab if you want, toggle in between them. You have your back and forth, you refresh, change your views, new options, cut, copy, paste, delete. Kind of have a quick launch section here as well, network, recent files, and so on. Power options here. And this will take you into the settings here. All right, for this power tools thing here, It's supposed to come with 30 days for free, but if you click on it, it wants a key right away, so I'm not sure why I'm not getting the free 30 days. So maybe an update will fix that, I'm not sure. Alright, then you have your display settings here, which we saw, some of those. Sound options, notification options, storage. Kind of like disk management in Windows. All right, multitasking options, activation, which will bring up the same thing here. All right, recovery options, just like Windows has, remote desktop. So this will use AnyDesk. So if you click on this, it'll try to install the AnyDesk remote desktop client. And then about. You can see the computer name, your hardware information, processor RAM, that kind of thing. PowerTools information. All right, then we have some other similar options which we saw before, Bluetooth and devices, network and internet. So this is kind of like a secondary way to get to some of the same options we already saw. Even has Active Directory capabilities if you want to join an Active Directory domain. And customization options like we saw. Right, applications. So here are what apps start when you start the computer here, kind of like Windows has. Apps and features if you want to see your installed applications. All right, so here you could actually see what apps are installed on your computer and remove them if needed. Then you have some options to install new apps, and they're broken down into categories here. So let's say you wanted this one, for example, just click on install, put in your admin password. And you should be able to find it in your apps here, just like that. All right, you even have some office tools, and then some system settings tools, add-ons. And you could add other software repositories too if you don't want to use Discover. Like you could add the GNOME software repository. You just have to look up the command to install it. Then you can install apps from that as well. And if you want to see your installed apps again, go to your settings, check for updates. So you can update them all from here as well too. All right, then accounts. If you want to add a new account or connect your OneDrive, you could do that. Or configure Google, Live, or own cloud accounts. Time and language settings. You need to change your date and time zone, that type of thing. Some game options here, accessibility options, privacy options, and then the updates again. So this says it's not up to date, so you could run the updates from here. All right, then we could right click here, add some widgets if we want. Gives you a nice list. So let's say we wanted to add this calendar, for example. You can see it puts it down here. Now we have a calendar. And if you right click here, you could enter edit mode. Then you could hover over it, configure it, or remove it. You could add some spacers, change the panel height, move it around, like so if you want to put everything to the left. Move it to the side, just like that. And we have some other options too. If you want to change the alignment once again, go back to center, for example. Have it always be visible, have it hide, change the opacity. So one thing I will say, when you start adjusting the taskbar, it is a little hard to tell what it's going to be doing. For example, I thought I made this go back to center and made it transparent, but it didn't seem to stick here. See right there? And I don't see a save option here, but I am recording at a low resolution, so maybe I'm missing it there, so you'll have to try that out. And then while you're up here, you could configure your desktop and wallpaper, choose a theme, change your display settings. So that'll just open up the appearance options. So you can see there is quite a bit to this when it comes to customizations. I'd say probably more than Windows. I know I'm jumping around a lot, but I'm just trying to cover all the sections here. All right, what else we have here? We also have a Show Desktop button on the right there. You click on the clock if you want to go to the time settings or calendar settings. Change your time zone, keyboard shortcuts, and that type of thing. Then you can right-click on the desktop to change your display settings again, make new folders, new files, change your icon sorting, refresh the desktop, add some desktop widgets, which will just open this again. Add a panel. So that puts a new panel up top here. And then you could add widgets. Let's say clock. Now you have a little clock up here in this extra taskbar, or panel as they call it. And you could also put panels on the side if you want to do that. But like you saw before, you can move your main panel to the side. You could add additional panels to the side and so on. And you could remove it if you don't want it, or have it be a floating panel as well. All right, and then while we're on the desktop, let's try out Microsoft Edge. So you can see, looks just like the real Edge here. If we go to the settings here, similar options to what you see in Windows. All right, then we have our search box here, which opens it in the middle instead of down at the bottom here. So let's say we search for terminal. You can see we have various terminals here, the console, Xterm, UXterm, even has a PowerShell and a remote desktop client. So if we open PowerShell, so this is their own version of PowerShell. So if we try something like this, it actually ran there. But of course, your results are going to be different than if you ran this in Windows. So that's kind of cool. All right, let's quickly check out the installed apps. So it comes with a lot of apps installed here. All right, so let's try to install a Windows app. So let's open this up. Let's type in 7-zip, for example. We're going to download the executable Windows version here. All right, so you'll notice that Wine has to be configured first or updated. So Wine is used to run Windows applications in Linux. So in this case, we're going to need to install .NET. So this might take a minute here, so I might have to pause if this takes too long. But anyway, so once you configure Wine, then you could install various Windows applications. Not all of them, obviously, but many of them. So we also did another video on Zorin OS, which is another version of Linux that allows you to install Windows apps. And then we also did a video on Ubuntu Cinnamon, which kind of has a Windows look and feel too. So I'll put links to both of those in the description as well. All right, so now that we have Wine configured, we're going to install 7-zip. You'll see it's going to C program file 7-zip. So this directory is not really here. It's just kind of like a virtual representation. So when you install these programs, it's thinking it's installing it on Windows. So there's even like a users folder too. All right, I'll install it. Okay, let's go back to our apps here. Now you can see we could run 7-zip within Linux. So if you try and run something that's not supported, it'll tell you it's not supported, so you'll find out that way. All right, let's go back to the apps and finish looking at these real quick just to see what comes with it. So you even have the online version of Excel and Word and that type of thing. Even Microsoft Teams. There's OneDrive. Even only Office if you don't want to use the online versions of Microsoft Office. There's Remote Desktop Client. Even has a Snipping Tool. System Monitor. Let's check that out real quick. So this is like Task Manager. You can even see services. That's nice. And even a WinVer to see your version here. Even calls it Windows Linux if you want to check your version. Okay, so that is your overview of LinuxFX. So like I said, if it's something you might want to check out, you could just download the ISO file, make your flash drive, boot to it, and run it in memory first, play around with it, and then if you like it, you could click on the install icon, install it on your hard drive. Just make sure you configure your hard drive correctly and make sure you watch what hard drive you're installing it on so you don't overwrite something else. All right, so I will put a link to this in the description as well as some links to all the other videos and stuff I was talking about, and then you can try it out. All right, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe.